Hey everyone, Shauna here. Glad to have you back. Hope you've had a chance to check out my first two videos, my Get to Know Me and my video about subchorionic bleeding. Today I'm going to be talking about my first trimester in this pregnancy, which I'm really excited about. Real quick, while you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up if you like it and if you want more content like this one. So, my first trimester, which for the purposes of this video, we're going to do from the moment I found out, which was 4 weeks, up until week 14, which is when my doctor says that you're in the second trimester. Different doctors do it differently. Some say 13 weeks, some say 14. My doctor uses 14 weeks, so that's what I'm going to use for this video. So my first trimester was hard, to say the least. I found out that I was pregnant at exactly 4 weeks. I had used ovulation kits to predict when I was ovulating for this cycle, and so exactly 2 weeks after it said I was ovulating, I took a pregnancy test and it was positive, and we were so excited. At that point, I wasn't really feeling any symptoms. I actually was a little worried because I wasn't feeling even nauseous or anything, which I had been pretty early on in my pregnancy that I had in April, where I miscarried. So for the first week or two, I didn't really have any symptoms. I did have the bleeding during week 5, but at that point I still really wasn't feeling any sort of symptoms besides just tired, just more tired than usual. During week 6, I would say, is probably when I started really feeling pregnant. I started with the nausea, which once it came on very strong, very heavy, and all day long. So for me, morning sickness was not in the morning, or was it just in the evening, or was it only when I ate? It was literally all day, every day. Lucky for me, I guess, I never actually got sick. It was just feeling nauseous all the time. And that lasted probably until about week 12. Just all day, every day, nauseous. And that is also, week 6 is right about the time that the extreme exhaustion kicked in. I felt so tired all the time. As I mentioned in my Get to Know Me, I work a normal desk job, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and so I'm not able to take naps ever, but I would come home from work, I'd get home around 5:30, I'd eat something, and I'd go to sleep. I was usually in bed by 7 p.m. and I would sleep until I woke up the next morning at 6:30. I was just so tired all the time. It's a whole new level of tired when you're pregnant. I have always been someone that's pretty tired on a regular basis. I don't sleep well at night. I suffer from insomnia occasionally, where I'm just up all night, can't sleep, wiggling, tossing and turning. I also am a very light sleeper, so any little noise wakes me up. So I've always been a pretty tired person, but this was a whole new level. My whole body was just exhausted. So I slept a lot, and that lasted probably about just as long as the nausea. I would say probably around week 10 or 11 it started getting a little bit better, and then by the time my second trimester hit, I was feeling a lot more energetic. So we had the nausea, the exhaustion, and then came the heartburn. And for me, I have always had heartburn even before I got pregnant. So I knew that that was going to be a symptom that I was going to have and going to suffer from. But it started early. It started probably right around the same time, week 6 or week 7, and it came on pretty strong. I started avoiding spicy and hot foods right away, just to try to avoid it as long as possible. But I would get heartburn usually in the afternoons and evenings pretty much every day. For me, I have never been a fan of like Tums or any of those like chewable antacids. I don't like that like chalky taste. And when I got pregnant, that was like magnified. I could not stand them. So that was really hard. One day we went and we got root beer floats for dessert after dinner. And I realized I was worried that the carbonation from the root beer was really going to mess up my heartburn, but it didn't. And at that point I assumed it was the ice cream that kind of helped offset it. And so then I started eating ice cream all the time to try to help with the heartburn, and it helped a lot. It's gotten to the point now where I don't eat ice cream quite as much, but I do drink a lot of milk to try to help with the heartburn. And it does, it helps pretty well, at least for a few hours at a time. So anytime I'm going to eat something hot, like buffalo wings, I drink a glass of milk with them, and it works pretty well. So I had the extreme nausea, extreme exhaustion, extreme heartburn, and then the bleeding that I've already mentioned in my previous video throughout my entire first trimester. And it was just rough. I called in a lot. I had a lot of doctor appointments. I missed some work because it was just, I was miserable. I had always been someone who was so excited to get pregnant, so excited to have kids. And I'd always planned on having this happy-go-lucky pregnancy. And that first trimester was rough. And it really wore on me. I was stressed all the time because I didn't know if I was miscarrying or if it was just the subchorionic bleeding that was causing me to bleed. And then with that, on top of that, was the nausea and the heartburn and just exhaustion. It was hard. I didn't have any real mood swings throughout the first trimester. There is one time right at the end of my first trimester, it was when we told all of our family I was pregnant, so it was 13 weeks and some days. And I couldn't get a hold of my husband. He was supposed to be on his way home. And I thought he should have been home by now, and so I kept trying to call him, and he wasn't answering. And I broke down, crying, freaking out, and then I realized that was the pregnancy hormones. So that was my first big, emotional meltdown. And my husband was fine. Just so you guys know, he left his phone in the car when he ran into the store, so he wasn't answering my phone calls, but he was fine. But I had a meltdown. And that was my only real emotional, and that was right at the end of my first trimester. And then some other normal pregnancy symptoms, sore breast. I did experience them off and on throughout the first trimester, but it wasn't anything really bad. Occasionally, sorry if this is too much information, but occasionally my nipples would hurt, but they would feel chapped. But it wasn't anything too bad. It would just come and go occasionally. Nothing too big. I did have a lot of cramping, which I was worried about, of course, because I was also having the bleeding. I was always worried I was miscarrying. My doctor said it was normal, though, once we got all the subchorionic bleeding figured out, that some women just have a lot of cramping and lower abdomen pain. And I did. I had a lot of lower abdomen pain where I felt really sore in my lower abdomen, almost like I'd done a whole bunch of sit-ups, but of course I hadn't. So that was most of my symptoms for my first trimester. And most of which have gone away throughout this second trimester, which I'll talk about more in my next video where I talk about my 14 through 18 weeks. But my first trimester was rough, and I feel for all you moms out there who have the bleeding, who have the extreme nausea. I actually talked to my doctor, and I told her at one point, I just wish occasionally I would get sick. And then it would be over. The nausea, the all-day nausea is worse than just throwing up, in my opinion. Of course, I didn't have the throwing up, so I guess I don't really have anything to compare it to. But my doctor agreed with me. She said the all-day nausea was definitely worse. And it was hard. I slept a lot. A lot. I felt bad because we have dogs, and they're home alone all day while my husband and I are at work. And then I'd come home and go to bed. And he'd just kind of be in charge of playing with them, making sure they felt loved as well, which we're doing better with now that I'm in my second trimester and have a little bit more energy. But it was rough there in the beginning. That is the end of my first trimester update, I guess. It was, I did want to mention, I did not gain any weight during my first trimester. I actually lost about 8 to 10 pounds, depending on whose scale you're using. My scale says I've lost about 10 pounds. My doctor's office scale says I've lost about 8 pounds. Either way, I lost about 8 to 10 pounds in my first trimester. My doctor said that was fine though. Since I was overweight to begin with, it was actually pretty normal for me to have lost some weight. I contributed mostly to, in the beginning, when I couldn't eat a whole lot because I was nauseous all the time, I was eating lots of fruits and vegetables because that's really all I could hold down. Meat made me nauseous. The thought of meat, the thought of fried foods, the thought of fast food made me really sick to my stomach, so I ate a lot of baby carrots and salads and apples and cantaloupe. I ate so much cantaloupe there at the beginning, and things like that. so I was eating a lot healthier. Also, to try to help with the heartburn and the nausea, I started eating a lot of like little meals throughout the day. Instead of just eating previously before I got pregnant, I was one of those people who, I know it's awful, but I would only eat like one big meal or maybe 2 meals a day. I would never eat breakfast. And once I got pregnant, I started trying to eat all throughout the day. A lot of times I'd wake up hungry, so I'd eat cantaloupe or banana or something first thing when I woke up, and then I'd eat throughout the day. Luckily, I have a job where I'm at a desk. I'm not having to deal with customers, so I'm able to sit there and just snack on things all day. So baby carrots are a must for me. They're at my desk all day, every day, and I just snack on them. But that's why I didn't have any real food aversions besides meat. The thought of meat, the sight of meat, all meat, just made me nauseous, which is, it stinks because I love steaks, love them, and the thought of a steak was just sickening to me. But luckily that's gotten a little bit better now that I've gotten further along. But that's why I contribute my weight loss too. I wasn't doing any exercising or anything like that. As I mentioned in my last video, since I had the bleeding, I was on moderate bed rest where I wasn't supposed to be doing a whole lot. I was supposed to be exercising. At work, I stopped taking the stairs and I started taking the elevator. Little things like that where I just wasn't doing as much housework. We live in Texas, so we have H-E-Bs here for our main grocery store. And so instead of actually going grocery shopping, I would use the pickup, and I would just order online and then go pick up the food, so I wasn't having to walk around the grocery store. So I really wasn't getting any exercise in at all, but I was eating a lot better and a lot more often in littler portions, which I know is healthier. So anyways, that's all for my first trimester video. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Like I mentioned before, my first trimester was really rough, and so I hope a lot of you guys out there who are pregnant don't have it nearly as hard as I did, but if you do, keep your chin up. What they say is true. It really does get better in the second trimester, okay? And I will talk all about that in my next video. See you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Bye!